Hola, welcome back to my channel. I'm Queen Vic. If you're new here, I am a 20+ year commercial flight attendant based in New York City, and I'm bringing you part 2 of my interview with my BFF's husband, Ken, who started as a rigger and is now a production manager, and hearing these stories of life on the road for these bands and everybody involved in setting up these stages is amazing. So let's jump on this journey, grab our backstage pass, and continue our interview with Ken. Let's go. So I wanted to get into, let's just say you take a tour as big as maybe like Justin Timberlake's past tour. Mm-hmm. How many 18-wheelers are there? How many tour buses do they rent for everybody?
Mm-hmm. Justin's last tour, we were 29 trucks, tractor trailers.
Wow.
And if I remember right, we were probably about 12 buses.
12 touring buses. So that's for, so it's separated. So it's for riggers and for dancers and for artists and for
band, management, you name it. We have a bus.
That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
These tours cost a lot of money. I'm sure you have some very good bus stories, kind of like our crash pad stories we've had. So what is your favorite bus story? Or what is the biggest lesson you feel like maybe you've taught one of your riggers?
Some buses and some crash pads, some flight crews and stuff are better than others. Sometimes you get with a group of people that are even more like family than a tour usually is. You just have a good rapport with everyone, and everyone's respectful, and the buses can be a bit of a free-for-all with the front lounge and the back lounge. Sometimes you have less of the party crowd up front that might just be hanging out, having a couple of cocktails, listening to some music, watching a movie, and in the back you may have a little bit of a rowdier crowd if you're going to a day off that is drinking harder and, you know, raising cane, blowing off some steam more so. But I like a quieter bus, to be honest. You know, I don't want to be a stick in the mud here, but at the same time, I like for it to be kind of chill. So kind of the tour tradition, you know, on the bus, we all have our own bunks. You sleep in your bunk.
Yeah. And you keep that bunk the whole tour. That's so you can leave stuff in there, and
But that's your one private, sacred space. It's very seldom, and even of all the practical jokes and stuff that go on tour, very seldom is someone's bunk involved, because that's almost always off limits. To even think about messing with someone's bunk. You know, you can keep your wallet in there. You can lay your wallet on your pillow and no one will touch it. It's in your bunk. Right. But falling asleep on the bus. If you fall asleep on the bus, not in your bunk, you're fair game. You're fair game to whatever happens to you. Which usually includes getting Sharpied and all sort of things written all over your face. And of course now with everyone having a camera in their cell phone. Yeah.
So before you even get up, it's already all over.
It's already out in the world. But the Sharpies, someone will come up with some fingernail polish, and one would wake up with their fingernails painted, or there's, you know, pictures of everybody next to you with a drink and, you know, something. It's just.
Well, you don't sleep in the common area. It's the same thing we've had with crash pads. Like, some people are like, no, I like to fall asleep with the television on, and it's what I do at home. And somebody else has to get up in, like, I don't know, 3 hours to get ready for work. And no, I'm not tiptoeing around the fact that you're sleeping. I have been shushed in a crash pad when someone's on the couch, and I'm like, I have to go to work. You need to go in your bed. You pay for a bed, go in your bed. So.
Well, we're of the notion, even if we're not goofing on the people that fall asleep, if you're asleep in the lounge, we're just going to carry on with whatever we're doing.
Right.
If you can sleep through it, great. If you can't, we don't care. You know, there's a lot of rules. The rules are even stricter on the bus than they are on the crash pad.
Oh, I'm sure.
Everyone cleans up after themselves, and if you don't, you're ostracized. If you don't have good bus etiquette, you will get it, or you'll get left somewhere.
Is it one, like if there's a new guy on the tour you've never worked with in previous tours, is there one person that's like, hey, I'm the one that's going to let you know, I'm going to tell you one time, this is the way it is? Or do you just expect for them, after how many tours they have under their belt, they should know this? I mean, I don't have to tell you this.
Yeah, but we have conversation with the new people. There's one real rule on the bus. And I don't know if you can put this in or not, but there's one rule on the bus. You don't poop on the bus.
Yes, we have to put that.
In the story.
That makes sense. That makes so much sense. Like, I mean, obviously if there's an emergency, it is what it is, but.
No.
Well,
no emergency.
Okay, so if somebody had a little emergency, would you pull over and say, all right, we're going to McDonald's because Robert over there is having a situation?
Yeah, no. Exactly. If
Wow.
you gotta go, the bus stops.
Okay. Yeah, well, that makes sense because that could be a really brutal ride.
Well, the buses do have toilets on them and stuff, but they're chemical toilets that aren't designed to handle solid waste. Yeah, and another thing with the bus, our call times, it's sort of like an airline, our departure times from hotels and venues and wherever we may be aren't open for discussion. They're set in stone, especially on the crew side. They may be a little lenient on the artist and band side, but if your information says the bus is leaving at 8, you better be on it because it's leaving at 8. Whether you're on it or not, it's leaving.
So what happens if somebody's like, oh man, 8:05, like, are you like, well?
At 8:05, they're not jumping on the bus and saying, sorry, I'm so sorry, because we're not there.
So has it happened? And how do they get back up? Do they find their own way to the next venue?
Yeah, they have to jump in a cab or whatever.
What, do they catch up with the bus and then the bus stops when they're in a cab, or like, do they just go to the next city on like a flight or something?
Typically it's like leaving a hotel after a day off and going to the venue the next morning. So, if it's somewhere that there's a flight or a 3-hour drive involved, we'll at least make an effort to call them in their room or whatever and say, hey, you coming? We're leaving, are you coming?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But
have you seen that happen?
Yes. But we call that being oil spotted.
Call it what?
We call that being oil spotted. If you miss the bus, it's oil spotted because...
Oil spotting?
Oil spotted, yes, because when you come out to get on the bus and you're late, the only thing that's left there is an oil spot where the bus used to be.
Oh, I get it, oil spotting. All right, and that's obviously something, riggers know from previous shows, and I would think that's also for the dancers, or
it's for the whole tour.
The whole tour, yeah, because everything is a matter of time and numbers. So, I did want to mention that you were able to bring your son and do some little rigging with him and like show him how to do some different things.
He's gotten to come to some shows
and
come to work with me sometimes. Most tours are very family friendly. A couple of times, which is a whole other conversation, but a couple of times Austin's been around when I was doing a pre-rig, which means I was in a venue rigging the day before and doing all the rigging before a load-in. So it's a little more relaxed. The pace isn't quite as fast, and I can spend some time showing him the ropes, if you will. And so he is in full agreement that the old folks are right and that he should stay in school and find an easier way to make a living. He's
not interested in being starting off as a rigger and getting into, I don't know.
Not so much, but then when he does come, he really gets into it. So we'll see. I don't want to do anything that would interfere with his education, but it's a great opportunity for someone like him to really make a lot of bank that they never even thought was possible. So
yeah, because you guys how much, I don't feel like you can, unless you really try, you don't spend that much money on the road. You have catering, you can eat at catering, you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's like its own little moving city with the catering and everything else, the offices and everything else. But we have to fend for ourselves on days off.
Yeah, well.
But you
have friends to visit and people to see. That's another great thing you can do, just like flying. If you're in a city, you can see family and.
Yeah, we're sleeping.
Yeah, well, or you're sleeping, yeah. And are there a lot of female riggers in this business? What do you think the ratio is of, I mean, you think it's gotten better over the years, or?
It has gotten better. I fully support the female riggers. A lot of times they come through because it is a lot of heavy lifting. There is a lot of high climbing. There's a fair amount there's an adrenaline factor to it. So a lot of times you get the men are macho and have something to prove and have to do everything better than the other guy, whereas a lot of the female riggers are just task oriented. They're very detail oriented and thorough, and they're just there to get the job done. So we run into more female riggers locally than we do on tour, but there are some on tour, some that I'm very good friends with and have nothing but respect for.
And like physical, like I feel like you need to have been a gymnast. I mean, I could have, I don't know. I just don't know if I can do all that.
Different people have different skill sets, men and women. And so you just play to your strengths.
Yeah. All right, so your obvious next step was production manager, which you've been doing for, I don't know, how long have you been doing production manager now?
I go back and forth, but officially the first time was 2013 when I was the interim production manager for the Chili Peppers.
Oh, okay.
That was the first time I officially held the title. It's kind of a natural transition for a lot of riggers. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it or not. There's not a big pay difference, but there's no downtime. There's barely even a day off for the production manager. So.
And how different are the duties? And I mean, would you say there's no, you're constantly going. You don't get that nap in between the show and.
The production manager is basically in charge of everything but the live performance. So, whereas the riggers are in charge of the rigging plus whatever other duties they might pick up. The production manager is in charge. First of all, he's in charge of the riggers, plus all the other departments, plus all the trucks, plus all the buses, just all the logistics. And the production manager's job is essentially to prepare the venue for the performance. So basically, when the show starts, I turn the venue over to the artist for them to do their show, and then once the show's over, then I take it back over and get all their stuff out of there and all their people. The production manager works very closely with the tour manager, who sometimes is the overall boss of the tour, and then in many instances, though, the tour manager and the production manager just work hand in hand.
Yeah.
The tour manager has more control over what the artist does. They take care of the artist side, and the production manager takes care of the production side. And usually when they arrive, which we like to be as late as possible, but they have sound checks, whatever. When they arrive at 3 p.m, I usually go out and meet the tour manager and the artist as they arrive. I have places for them to pull inside the venue, or I have a drop place that I go meet them and make sure that they get in with no problem, and stuff like that. And then usually I'll spend some time with the tour manager discussing that particular show, any last minute details that have came up, upcoming events that we need to get together. That's quite often during the afternoon is the tour manager and my time to sit down and plan what the tour is doing, and make sure that the production side knows what the touring side, the management side is doing, and vice versa.
Is that with every city you go in, or is that pretty much like, I don't know, once or twice a week you guys really have that discussion?
Pretty much every city. And some production managers are more involved, some are less involved, some artists want less input, they want more input. But I found that most artists I work for want the input, want the FaceTime. For example, like with Don Henley, I was always out there. If he had any questions for the day or whatever, I was there front and center, ready to answer any concerns he might have. Metallica, I always met them at their cars. Just always present. That's, whether you're interacting or not, they like your presence. Mm-hmm. So if they do have something, you're available. They're not having to track you down. It's a very service-oriented industry.
Well, and that too, and I don't know, obviously, I don't think the general public would know, like not only are you bringing in into a venue, into a stadium, the staging, but you guys set up an office. You were given a room. I would, in every big stadium you're in, you set up office in a room. And that office is like go time. Printer, setup, everything. You have all your stuff there ready to go. And that's all got to be packed up at the same time as the...
Every venue, from theaters to amphitheaters to arenas to stadiums, dressing rooms and locker rooms and office space, the bigger, more modern facilities have more, usually, not always. But every day we set up catering, we set up a dining room, a place to prepare catering, all the offices and dressing rooms, which sometimes can be a dozen or more spaces that we need for offices and dressing rooms. We need tech areas so that the techs can keep the gear maintained and stuff like that. It really is. It's a moving city. We bring our own Wi-Fi and networks, and we wire all that together from the backstage to the offices to the arena floor. We can access our networks from just about anywhere in the building.
And I remember Gina saying also, just in talking about your job in the past, the different channels, like you have different, like you have a catering channel on your radio. You have different, like you have to switch to numbers, like channel 3 is catering, channel 2 is Ken, is that?
Yeah, we have, usually our radios have 16 channels. And each department basically has their own channel. Usually production is channel 1 and the show channel is 16. The reason for that, funny enough, is so that you don't have to take your radio off and look at it to change channels, or you don't have to count as you're reaching back and changing channels. You don't have to count in your head 2, 3, 4. If you want to go to production, it's all the way to the left. If you want to go to the show, it's all the way to the right. And anything in between. Carpenters, trucking, catering, lighting, video, pyro, management, security.
It is its own city. It really is like it's just, I guess it's what the circus used to be.
It's a lot like the circus, yeah.
I remember talking to you about when an artist wants to change a song, like you have a set list, you pretty much follow that. But when they decide this city really, I know you guys are going to love this, I'm going to pull this out of my back pocket. Does that make your crew crazy?
It does. Some crews appreciate it more and enjoy the spontaneity and the fun of it more than others. But some artists do, especially if it's not a heavily automated show or one with one cue after another. It gives them more freedom to switch things up. And a lot of it has to do with how the performers read the audience.
Right.
If the audience needs to get lifted up a little bit, then they'll throw something heavier at them. And if, let's say on the heavy metal tours, take Metallica for example, or the Foo Fighters with BRoll, if if the crowd needs to calm down a little bit, they might change it up a little bit with something not quite as driving or with as much energy.
But when they decide to do that, how does that throw the production into it? Like, oh God, like do you have to change like your camera angle? Do you have to, I mean, how many people does that affect when they say, you know what, we're going to take it old school today? And they're like, no, wait, what do you do?
Well, it's funny enough, most of the audio engineers, the monitor and the front of house engineer, they have presets in their control boards in their desk. So when one song's over and another song's about to start, they hit the preset button for that particular song that they've already programmed, and it's ready to go once the song starts. You know,
which can be is that the lighting and the everything? That's
and the lighting director already has presets in his desk for that song. So, you know, if you get some advance warning, you can just preset for the song that is coming. But if it's a song that the artist almost never does, then there may not be any presets. You may have to go full on old school and
just manually work everything and be like, oh, okay, let's do this.
And some artists do it just for fun, just to keep their crew on their toes.
Oh, that's so nice. That's special. I love that. I love hearing stories like that. Any more stories you have like that, I love to hear it.
It's becoming a little less of a thing these days because I don't want to bore you.
No, these are good stories.
But there's also a very well-used item in the industry now it's called Timecode, where everything is in sync.
Okay.
The cues, the lighting cues and the video cues and what you see on the screen and the automation, all that stuff is already tracked with the song is exactly a set amount of time.
Yeah, because they use so much video now that, yeah,
you want all those things to be in sync. So as you start having tours like that and shows like that, then the freedom to vary from your set list, you know, the opportunities for that start becoming fewer and fewer.
Well, maybe they're starting to work in some, like I know when I went to Pink, they would have, you know, the artist Pink come to kind of center stage, and she'd have two guitar players on either side of her, so they could kind of, there's no video, it's just her and the lights on her. So then at that point you could be like, okay, well maybe we could do this song and change it up because you don't have all the video going on. You don't have the dancers queued up ready to go with the routines that they know.
Exactly.
So you get a little more free. Maybe that's their freedom time.
And a lot of times the artist will mix it up at the encore too. When it's a little more freestyle or whatever, there's not, you know, as many show elements going. You know, some artists, you know, there's a set list that shows the encores, 2 songs.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, the crowd has a really good reaction to them or something. They decide to do one more song, you know. And I've had to go grab the horn section out of the van more than once. He's doing another song. Get back in here.
Oh, God.
I thought that their last, you know, the last song that involved any horns was over, so they put their horns in their.
Oh my God.
And got in the van.